Beaufort's house was one of the few in New York that possessed a ballroom. Such a room, shuttered in darkness 364 days of the year, was felt to compensate for whatever was regrettable in the Beaufort past. Regina Beaufort came from an old South Carolina family, but her husband Julius, who passed for an Englishman, was known to have dissipated habits, a bitter tongue, and mysterious antecedents. His marriage assured him a social position, but not necessarily respect. Newland Archer had not stopped at his club as young men usually did, but came directly to the Beauforts. He wanted the announcement of his engagement to divert gossip away from the Countess and show his most ardent support for May and her whole family. The Beaufort house had been boldly planned. Instead of squeezing through a narrow passage to get to the ballroom, one marched solemnly down a vista of enfiladed drawing rooms. But only by actually passing through the crimson drawing room could one see the return of spring, the much-discussed nude by Bouguereau, which Beaufort had had the audacity to hang in plain sight.
Good evening, Joe. Good evening, Mr. Archer.
Archer enjoyed such challenges to convention. He questioned conformity in private, but in public he upheld family and tradition. This was a world balanced so precariously that its harmony could be shattered by a whisper. On the whole, Archer was amused by the smooth hypocrisies of his peers. He may even have envied them. Lawrence Lefferts, for instance, was New York's foremost authority on form, and his opinion on pumps versus patent leather Oxfords had never been disputed. On matters of surreptitious romance, his skills went unquestioned. Mr. Sillerton Jackson was as great an authority on family as Lawrence Lefferts was on form. The mean and melancholy history of Countess Olenska's European marriage was a buried treasure he hastened to excavate. He carried, like a calling card, an entire register of the scandals and mysteries that had smoldered under the unruffled surface of society for the last 50 years. Now, Julius Beaufort's secret was the way he carried things off. He could arrive casually at his own party as if he were another guest, and might also leave early for a more modest but comforting address in the East 30s. Beaufort was intrepid in his business, but in his personal affairs, absolutely audacious. Archer's fiancée was innocent of all these intrigues and of much else. May Welland represented for Archer all that was best in their world, all that he honored, and she anchored him to it.
You see, I've told all my friends, just as you've asked.
Yes, I couldn't wait. Only I wish it hadn't had to be at a ball.
But even here, we're alone together,
The
aren't
worst of it is that I want to kiss you. And I can't.
we? Newland. Did you tell Ellen as I asked you to?
No, I didn't have a chance after all.
She's my cousin, Newland. If others know before she does. It's just that she's been away for so long. She's rather sensitive.
Of course I'll tell her, dearest, but I didn't see her yet.
She decided not to come at the last minute.
At the last minute?
She was afraid her dress wasn't smart enough. We all thought it was so lovely, but she asked my aunt to take her home.
Oh, well.
Very handsome, very liberal. In my time, a cameo set in pearls was thought to be sufficient. But it's the hand that sets off the ring, isn't it, my dear Mr. Archer?
It's the new setting. It shows the stone beautifully, but it looks a little bare to old-fashioned eyes.
I hope you don't mean mine, my dear. I like all the novelties. My hands were modeled in Paris by the great Rocher. He should do May's. Show me, child. Her hand is so tempered. It's these modern sports that spread the joints. But the skin is white. And when's the wedding to be?
Oh, as soon as ever it can, if only you'll back me up, Mrs. Mingott.
We must give them time to get to know each other a little better, Mama.
Know each other? Everybody in New York has always known everybody. Don't wait till the bubble's off the wine. Marry them before lead. I may catch pneumonia any winter now, and I want to give the wedding breakfast.
Oh, what a kind offer.
Even if she had not been grandmother to May, Mrs. Manson Mingott would still have been the first to receive the required betrothal visit. She was not only the matriarch of this world, she was nearly its dowager empress. Much of New York was already related to her, and she knew the remainder by marriage or by reputation. Though brownstone was the norm, she lived magisterially within a large house of controversial pale cream-colored stone in an inaccessible wilderness near the Central Park.